100 days left. That's pretty wild. Feels like a pretty big milestone to go from thousands of days to launch down to 100 days to launch. We'll be here before we know it. It has been a wild few weeks around here. With Aiden coming on board, and then Scott and Ross and George coming out, and Satchel and the volunteers. This place has been humming, and so much work has been getting done, and we could not be accomplishing all of this work without all of the support. So thank you so much to everyone who's contributed and made it possible for us to hire all of these awesome folks to come help us cross this finish line. And we're really excited to see everybody in Mattapoisett on June 17th. And I know there's a lot to do, and there's only 100 days, but we have a good crew, and we will be at launch. We will be ready. And when we say ready, we don't mean ready to go cross oceans. We don't mean the boat is 100% finished, every stitch of rigging is done, she's ready to go sailing. But she'll be ready to float, she'll be ready to motor, and it won't be too long after launch until we're ready to go sailing. And again, it's been unbelievable the last few weeks, having the big crew in the shop and having so many different projects all being worked on and coming to completion at the same time. And I'm sure you're noticing a difference in the videos. There's obviously a lot more going on and a lot more interesting things that we can shoot. So thank you again to everyone who's contributed and is making these videos and this rapid progress possible. And just know that we really appreciate it, and can't wait to see you on the water.
The cherry oak and cedar burl drawer fronts from last week are all glued up. And next, to fill the many crevices and voids, Steve opted for epoxy over varnish to save time applying multiple coats.
This one I'm going to do a bit more of a deep pour, because I do need to use some of this corner here, I think.
And Scott was finishing the last of the work on the aft hatch. Since it's going to be seeing a lot of use at sea, this hatch trim is made from oak rather than cherry, like the rest of them.
We got a bilge float switch that there really isn't room for in the forepeak, up under the mast step there. But we know that water's going to leak in, maybe from the anchor locker or whatever. We want to get that switch as low as possible. So I'm making a little contraption to push down, hold the switch into place from above, because there's just not enough flat space to mount this in the bottom.
Nice. So when water hits that, it triggers it?
Correct.
Nice.
Yep.
Ooh! Oh, melted in.
Look at that.
That's good.
Wow. Pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
Pretty happy with that.
Satchel got this float switch situated a few days later and moved on to preparing to wire up the radio and navigation stations. With all the systems laid out on the spar bench upstairs, Steve and Satchel could have an easy overview of everything that needed to go in and be able to see something more that might be needed. In the house, Ross and George were taking turns working up many coats of varnish on the hatches, tables, and interior trim pieces. And when not in the house, they were back on deck, sanding and fixing any problems with the pitch.
this all in.
Doesn't it look great?
Looks wonderful.
A lot of electrical connections to make. Currently working to mount this radio.
You working top down?
Yeah, kind of in and back, because then, you know, we're not pulling wires by stuff as much. Yeah, that's the theory. So I cut the fuse off this radio because we're going to run it on a separate fuse block. So Steve doesn't have to go fishing for fuses. I'm about to drill some holes, put this mount in here, and then connect these up.
Nice.
It's a lot of wires.
With the aft hatch done and ready for varnish, Scott moved on to his next big project, the cherry grab rails that will encircle the inside of the housetop. Aiden put the camera down for a minute to extract a tool that hasn't seen use on the project just yet. But it's what will be needed to get the curved shape for the grab rails.
Okay, I gotta take this shaper and clean it up so that we can make our grab rails. Not sure this thing's been used in a very, very long time. Anyways, let's see what happens. Alright. Looks a little better than when we started. Now we just gotta get the right bit.
And this is Tom, who's been helping out on deck, following behind Ross and George with sandpaper and a broom. And as for Steve, when he can fit in around Satchel and Madison working on the electrical inside the boat, he's been trying to make progress on the second version of the galley sink. These are the side drawers that, once they're fit, will be faced with the burls.
How to do this.
It's tough working in here. I just keep like
That's a
literally
tricky
just
spot.
It's everything's so slick.
Yeah.
Just slide right down.
In addition to the side drawers, there will be some drop-in storage behind the sink as well, which will be faced with the larger burl glue-ups, along with what he could salvage from the previous countertop.
Yeah, put it right there. If we need to glue it back down, we can glue it back down. I'll get this other piece fit. Aiden's over here trying to clean up while I'm trying to work.
Akiva, you look very comfortable. Yes. Oh, big stretch. Hi, Ernest.
The biggest benefit of having so much help on hand is that Steve was freed up to tackle all the remaining big decisions, like how to incorporate a stern anchor with all that's going on behind the cockpit, and also to be there to answer the many questions that come in from such a large group.
That's not very... No, and then you also have the water tank here, and you have the fittings in the front of the water tank that we need to get around.
And with plenty of room outside the boat to work, Aiden and Aaron got the pockets for the ballast keel bolts plugged. These were made all the way back in episode 66, if you want to go back, and Madison was here for that one too. Just another half day's work, and something more that has to get done.
So these plugs don't need to be perfect, but they just need to snug up in here, and we're just trying to fill this space so that little ocean creatures and that sort of thing don't make it its home. And I'm building them out of some scrap locusts that we have, and they're all a little bit different size, and I'm just cutting out this U to make space for the keel bolts that are in there. And then after these are all cut, we'll pack this full of dolphinite, push this in. Well, it doesn't fit in that one, it fits in this one. And then plug this with a little plug and pair it up to the keel.
Is this good?
Yeah, you should get some on the side also.
Oh, yeah. Oh, stinky peanut butter. Huh. Sticky peanut butter.
So many of you have been asking for an update on KP, and everyone at the shop and KP themselves would love to have more of an update to give beyond the fact that they are still resting at home with a case of long COVID or post-COVID syndrome and are simply still lacking the energy to be in the shop at this point. Please wish KP well in the comments, and we hope that they return to lay hands on the boat again before launch.
Because when I got sick, it was me and Steve, and then it was just Steve, and that sucked
Yeah, it was a,
for
it was
both
a
of
tough
us.
time.
For both of us.
Yeah.
And then I came back to work, 2 weeks later, and I was like, I'm good. Let's go. And he was like, no, you're not good. I said, yes, I am.
Saturday morning. Starting to smell and sound a bit like spring. And Ross is moving out these cherry glue ups for the handrail sections. That's a lot of pretty nice cherry. So I've been working on installing bilge pumps and float switches. And we're looking at the forwardmost bilge pump setup.
Here's the pump mounted on the bulkhead. You can see the wires from the switch. They're going to be run back and connected to the pump. Just down over there.
So now I'm gonna mark the corners, drill. Yeah, and here's the heads-up display with the plotter, digital readout, manual controls, and the VHF extension. And then there's a panel that slides in front to cover this all up, which would be really nice for keeping the sun off the electronics when they're not being used. And also, I think this little bit of shade from the top is going to make these panels far more readable. It's a pretty sweet setup. I'm going to do the wiring.
With so many bodies in the shop, we're getting a lot done, and there's just a ton of things being worked on all at the same time. And Mother Nature is holding us up on a few things. So I'd love to finish installing this nav station here and get that all permanently put together. But it is still a bit too cold to do any epoxy or 4200 bedding compound outside right now. So this is waiting, the fore hatch is waiting, the aft hatch is waiting, and as soon as we get 24 hours above 40 degrees, all of those are going to go in. But right now, the cold weather is holding us up a little bit, so come on, spring. We get asked all the time when we're going to fair and caulk the hull. And as you can see, fairing has begun. So I've been going through with the power planer and the angle grinder and just getting everything relatively close. And I'm checking on fastener depth. So the garboard plank was the first one on the boat. It was the first plank I had ever hung on a boat. And I was a bit timid with how deep we set the screws with how much needed to be back out and shaped on that big plank. So some of these need to get popped out and set a little bit deeper. But other than that, the fairing is coming along fairly quickly and easily. Once I have everything about to this point rough faired, we will go through and get everything bunged, clip the bungs off, and about that time we'll be ready to start caulking and fairing and swelling and going through that whole process, which is going to take a while because some of these lower planks that have been on for a while have opened up and we're going to have to let them swell and close up. So caulking and all of that will be a little bit of a process. And we need the weather to warm up enough to be above freezing so we can really start to add humidity and swell this. Otherwise, we're just going to make a skating rink in here, which won't be fun. Ross and George have been varnishing champions the last couple weeks. So as you can see, Scott got the fore and aft hatch, all the woodwork done for that, and Ross and George have been applying varnish to that. We have the nav table, we have the saloon table. So the varnish room here has been very busy and very full. And all of this is down to its last couple coats of varnish and will be ready to install within the next day or two. We just need it to warm up a little bit. So this is gonna get to this point and sit on the back burner, and then we're gonna install a whole lot of deck things all at the same time, which will be quite the visual change. I look forward to that. Scott's been working on the grab rails for the interior. So we took our thick chunks of cherry and glued on just a little bit more. And these are eventually going to be grab rails all the way around the house. I'm pretty sure that's what Scott's cutting upstairs. So let's go check that out. And I'll do the grab rail. All right, have them all installed by the end of the day?
Yeah.
So I think Ross and George have the award for most tedious jobs. What do you think?
Sometimes, but it'll be gratifying to be able to walk on smoothly, with no problem.
So what are you working on?
We are getting the very last of the tiniest of defects in the pitch lines. So far we've got them nice and even, and there were just a few places that have bubbles or little bitty lines that I'm being a little bit particular about. So hopefully we'll be done with the starboard side once all these blue bits of tape go.
Nice.
How many weeks have you been working on this?
2?
2 weeks?
This is 2, the beginning of the third week.
Yeah. So between getting the deck cleaned up, doing pitch repair, doing varnishing, what else? You made the knob or the
piece for the on-off switch at the nav table,
And then the drawer faces.
and inlaid the handles and the drawer faces. Yep, for the galley.
Getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Knocking it off the list.
How goes the wiring?
Great. Great. Yeah.
So Satchel and Madison are working on all the electrical, and I'm not going to go down below right now because the fridge in the companionway is quite the workstation. But they've been chugging away on that. So as woodwork has gone in, Satchel's following immediately behind and getting things wired up. So everyone's spread all over down below on deck, working outside on the hull, and yeah, doing what we can to be ready for launch.
It's actually really satisfying, the back of this panel. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
The radio mounted, nice split wrap runs. These are mounted. This for waiting on a little button so that we can fit the switch in and have room for the cables at the back. Steve thinks of everything. And then you can see the start of the cable management strategy. Some of the Garmin stuff is tucked back up here. We've got split wrap and your spiral wrap, and then zip tie mounted holders so that we can just add cable, and then replace them with, and the Velcro zip ties now, we can replace them with permanent zip ties.
Mm-hmm.
The challenging part is going to be, this has to be able to fold down, so everything that connects to these panels needs to either run down and have a little loop like this one,
Yeah.
or needs to have kind of a hung loop that hangs and expands.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a struggle.
I got beeping.
Got the radio.
Radio's on.
We should also get the plotter. Possibly.
Does that have a fuse on it?
It does not have a fuse. Get a multimeter and find out. So this is why we test things sequentially. Because if you just wire everything up and then you go to turn it on and you get none of the things you're expecting, you have no idea where to start.
Yes. Okay.
So it has power. All right, folks, here it is. The initial power up of the Garmin system. Ready? Very satisfying breakers to push.
Oh.
Look at that.
She's alive.
Look at that.
Garmin. That's it.
It's gonna go to another screen.
We hope.
It did last time. Look at that.
Hey, doesn't know where we are.
No, not yet. That's disappointing. There should be more devices on the network. Oh, there's the card reader. Yeah.
Oh, there you
We
go.
got an SD card reader and a screen.
Hey, he gets the credit. Hey, you're welcome.
Oh, Wow.
I don't even know why I even looked back there.
Wow.
You had the right instinct.
Wow. You're my hero.
He found it.
Yeah, but you you're no, don't give up attitude. You were gonna take this goddamn boat apart to get that.
Were you getting
Put it
worried?
back
Tom?
together again.
Didn't even have to.
Well,
So I
will
can
that
get
be
in
on?
this
This is gonna be in the video.
Well, that'll be on the video.
What just happened?
My ring. I dropped my ring into the
bilge.
the bilge.
Oh,
Only I was standing right over the motor, and Scott finally
So it
spotted
back
it
there.
way the hell back there. Now whether it bounced,
I was gonna say, if it hit part of the top, like if it hit like right here
And
or
bounced.
like right there or something, it
Shot
could have
back.
shot it back. Yeah.
right?
What year did you get that?
92.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
I was gonna take out Aiden's box, but I
1892?
forgot that I was
No,
bolted in. I'm like, oh, we can have more
1992.
roof. We take this box and I'm like,
And
never mind, it's bolted.
from 1967 to 92, we lived in
Lid
sin.
off.
Oh, let's put this on so you can see the things that we.
Wait, hold on. Wait.
All right.